Everyone wants to avoid failure, but despite our best efforts, it happens all the time. Failure can be difficult to accept, but it can also be an incredible learning opportunity. Years ago, I wrote my first novel, this science fiction tale of renewable energy and unrequited love, and it was absolutely terrible. Before I started, I had one goal: to create a quality piece of art. And when the final product fell short of this goal, I deemed it a total failure. But after some time passed, I realized I learned more about writing and storytelling from creating that horrible novel than anywhere else. That realization made me reconsider the value of failure. Now we need to make one thing clear. Failure itself is a drag, a bummer, an emotional kick in the gut. It'll leave you vulnerable and embarrassed, and you will probably encounter it at some point in your life. But failure does not mean you are stupid or worthless. It means you took a calculated risk, invested time and effort into something, and came up short. That's all. Failure can bring anyone down. I used to approach each creative project as if it was destined to be a timeless masterpiece. And when the result wasn't as good as I hoped, I'd sink into despair over my apparent lack of talent and vow to never leave the house again. But making myself feel bad got me nowhere. So if you fail, you can mourn for a while, but don't get comfortable in the sadness. If you're truly eager to improve, you'll need to figure out what went wrong. It's tough to admit when we've done something poorly, but in order to learn from failure, you have to be honest about the shortcomings in your work. The sooner you admit to these shortcomings, the sooner you can improve. After reflecting on my novel, I realized that my abilities needed work. So I read writing books to improve my storytelling, studied new subjects for inspiration, and practiced writing as often as possible. Eventually, I gathered the confidence to start a new project about a crazy goose. I told myself that I wouldn't mess up like last time. So I went out and tried and failed again. Understand that failure is not an end point, but merely a part of the self-improvement process. Although it's unpleasant, it's a chance to learn and gain experience. Even though my crazy goose story wasn't great, it was better than the novel. I continued to study and practice, and when I started another project about a wisecracking dinosaur, it turned out better than the goose story. I wasn't a best-selling author or anything, but there was a notable difference in my work. If I judge those projects by my original goal, then yes, they failed as pieces of art. But thanks to those experiences, I became a better writer. When I consider those silly stories from that perspective, they aren't failures at all. Whenever you're trying new things, you will almost certainly run into failure. But if you have an idea worth pursuing, pursue it to the best of your ability, even if it doesn't turn out the way you want, and learn all you can from the experience. Then try again and do better. Stay curious and open to self-improvement, and failure will always be temporary.